All right, so we're going to jump right into the Nasdaq 100 and the SP 500, going over exactly how we were moving today. If we go back to Friday's action and how we kind of started this week, we saw that going into Friday, we had a nice bullish move, basically pushing us up towards local highs of around 11.2 flat. Going into the end of the week, we quickly gave all that back up. And then going into today, obviously, we're pushing right back up to the upside. So we got some pretty choppy movement. And basically going into the action of today past 10 a.m., around basically an hour and 30 minutes after open, it was kind of just a chop city range. And I kind of want to talk about where we're at now and ultimately what's going to be moving this market. Before we get into that, I ask you to consider doing two things: liking and subscribing. Every single day I'm posting videos for you, so you are prepared on what's going to be happening with the market, specifically with news, fundamentals, and then of course technicals and how I am trading. Let's get to it. So first thing I want to look at is really what's happening here. And I want to talk about the potential for maybe some upside. Now, going into Monday, I was looking more for potential of this downside, maybe going to retest of this overall demand. And what do I say here? Now, if you're not following on Twitter, again, I really recommend doing so. I try to keep everyone updated, specifically with charts, so you can see. First thing I said out of the gate this morning was these were your zones where you need to be watching. All that matters. This was basically last night, actually. With our demand, our June lows, and then our obvious supply at the top. So basically, I assumed we would range trade in here. I also mentioned I was not looking for puts going into today. Why? Because we don't want to short lows. That's a rule of thumb, right? So when we're looking in here, we don't want to start grabbing shorts at the lows. Why? Because ultimately, if you're grabbing shorts down here, your target is ultimately where that level is down here. So you have to have a very high stop loss, and then obviously your risk to reward makes no sense at that level. So what you're always looking for is to short at key levels. So what did we do this morning? And I love to stay transparent here and to show people what I was doing. I had Amazon puts. I'm going to go into exactly what and why I got out of these. Ended up getting out around 3.9. I had my stop at 3.8, but ended up exiting 3.9 because I just assumed it was going to, drop. And I will go into that here in a second. Smart move. We lost about 6%, but that was the only trade of the day. And ultimately, what I was looking at was right here. So I'm going to go to the 5 minute and show you intraday price action. As terrible as this price action was. So basically, I'm getting into shorts around this area. These are your previous lows in June. So what do we have happen on the day? We had a strong move to the upside. We broke back below the lows, and I assumed we were going to get rejected. That did not happen. We started mounting back above, and I just ended up closing the position for a 6% loss. And then on throughout the rest of the day, you made higher lows, trying to push up. You were making basically lower highs on a broad scale, but on a smaller scale, looking at the day, it's an ascending triangle, which is typically bullish. I want to highlight that. This is a bullish chart. So you can see what's happening here. You're making these higher lows, pushing up to this overall resistance at around 11.14. That's where you're sitting at right now. Now, as we look at this, so going into tomorrow, I have to look at this from a bullish perspective. But I told everyone here something really, really simple. And I want to make this extremely, extremely clear here. The most important factors into this week are going to be your earnings, okay? So what do we know? In my opinion, the biggest movers here, tomorrow you have Goldman Sachs in the morning. These are your pre-market and you have your after hours. In my opinion, you're going to get decent Goldman earnings. We know banks, how they've been reporting so far. They're all basically the same. But I believe you're waiting on the market for these tech earnings, Netflix, Tesla, Snapchat. These are going to be the ones that are going to define the movement that we're going to see over the coming weeks and days and kind of set the tone for earnings season. So Netflix, right? For instance, if we look at Netflix, we were looking for potential for some downside here, but ultimately it was the strongest stock basically in tech. If you look back at the past 2-3 months, going into August when you made those highs and you started dipping back down with the rest of the market, Netflix has kind of withstood this test. If we go to SPY and look at what's happened, August, you've been just going down. Netflix has not. It's been holding this overall trend and you're sitting back at those highs. If Netflix can somehow report good earnings, we don't anticipate good overall earnings from Netflix, but we're looking at the outlook. If the outlook from these companies, specifically tech companies, is strong, I anticipate good market behavior. I think will outweigh anything the Fed says. I think it will be kind of the tone for the market over the next few weeks. Personal opinion. So As we look, we need to be watching for these earnings because these are going to be what moves the market. Okay, you need to understand that. So tomorrow after close, Netflix earnings. My video, I'll probably wait to post it till a little bit later to see how we react. But Netflix earnings, very, very important. Tesla next, and then Snapchat on Thursday. Okay, so that's what we're looking at. That's how we're looking at the market and what's happening here. If you don't believe me, look at really how the market's moving today. You had no good news. You had bad news out of Russia, bad news out of Ukraine, bad news out of OPEC, everything like that, and you continue to push up. So that's what we're looking at. That's how we're moving right now. And now you have turned 1106 as a support, your previous June lows, right? So now you're turning resistance into support as well. So going into tomorrow, what do I expect? I expect slow sideways movement. If anything, I'm not necessarily looking at a trade specifically. If anything, maybe you test and you push back up towards this range. Overall, though, I am anticipating a retest of this level. And I'm shocked, and I kind of told everyone in Discord, I am utterly shocked that you did not test that today. I really thought that would come in. Now, as we get into some more of this context of what's happening, we saw some short selling happening this morning. So around 8:30 through 9:30, first hour of trading, a lot of downside short selling, right? Short selling, short selling. This is what I was saying. Shorts had every opportunity on the day to push the market down. They did not take advantage with volume. You can go back and look how volume moved. Every time you'd push down, shorts would overall just slow down in comparative to the buying on the market. Buyers decided to hold this up above those key levels. So you saw shorts try to push you below that 1106, the June lows. They failed and buyers got you back above it. And you can see right here around this 3680 level, which represents that same 1106 level on Nasdaq. That's where shorts are actually buyers decided to hold you up and not allow you to get below. And you started to make higher lows across the board, which was overall good for the market, right? So you're looking at that. Next up, looking at what's happening specifically here with SPY. Look at the orders. Yes, you had some downside orders, and here you had your biggest order near the end of the day at close, but it's a leap, and it's not necessarily that bearish, okay? These were more of your bearish orders, right? These right here. These were beginning of the market, shorter dated, sweeps. These were very bearish. However, their orders weren't that big. This still has me in favor with options favoring the upside comparative to the last few days, which I'll go into. Your put to call ratio is still very bearish, but the size of these orders, monetarily speaking, is still favoring the upside, in my opinion, and compared to the past few weeks. Qs, you had some bigger strikes come in here, but again, this was all before lunch. So again, this has me thinking, I don't think this is necessarily bearish. People are establishing some positions, but there's no clear sign here. Past few weeks, we've had clear signs to how the market was going to move. Not so much today. So if there's ever a time to sit on your hands, in my opinion, it's right now. Okay, I want to make that really clear. Also going into DXY, making this really clear, you pushed down heavily today. We thought about how maybe you can push up. Your Monday open, I posted a chart. You came below, retested weekly, nothing but downside here. So I'm watching this as well. DXY dollar value getting hammered to the downside. And I believe this is all in expectation to earnings. Again, personal opinion, things I'm looking at. Next up, I actually want to show you here on a trend spider some of the trends happening here. And this is the auto trend tool. It's pretty cool and it helps just overall look at some things. Now I'm going to show you this on a few different time frames and things I'm looking at. Again, this right here is your August high. So this is going to be more of your shorter term trend happening right now. Okay, so you have your August high, your trend. So from here, you have relative upside. 11.7, 11.8 roughly. That's kind of your maximum upside here based on this trend. Your shorter trend that's, you're kind of withholding into as well, making lower highs going into September 13th. You can see that's holding you down right here, which is obviously that same range we were looking at from Friday. So this does make sense. It does align with what we were looking back here on Nasdaq. Okay, just want to make sure that's very clear, right? It's still that same level that we're watching for right there. So this all is still in tangent, still makes sense of where you're at. But overall, I have no clear direction here. It's all going to depend on earnings. I want to make that extremely, extremely clear. Okay. Next thing, we're going to go to the daily, and I'm going to bring up a quick indicator. And Jay made this very clear to me as well. So I want everyone to know this. And if you want to look at this, do this, follow along for yourself, go ahead. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to trash can everything else. I'm going to bring up this indicator, just a moving average, just so you know, boom, moving average. And all we're going to do is put this on the 20, right? And make this really clear for everyone, right? I want to just walk y'all through this so y'all can see exactly what I'm doing. The 20 has proven on the daily chart to be a resistance. And again, if you were not following on Twitter, I recommend doing so. I posted this chart a little bit earlier. Okay, so you can all see as well, right? My tweets. I don't know where exactly I posted it, but I did. Jay posted it earlier. I posted on Twitter as well. Anyways, so you can see the 20 MA has been a pain in the butt since you topped out in August. Okay, so since you topped out, you broke below 20 MA. Rejection, 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 arguably a rejection there, and you're coming to test it once again. Okay, so these are definitely things you need to be watching for. And if you go back, you can see when you really reclaimed this, you broke above, retested, and continued up. And that's where you got this retest right here and back in July, which pushed you all the way through August. So again, I'm not calling for a bottom here. I'm not necessarily calling for a pump. Again, how you know that I am being more confident in the market with a clear direction is I have my money put into a specific trade. Right now, I do not. I am liquid. I'm sitting on my hands, and a lot of people don't like hearing this. But overall, you are really waiting on a coin flip with how earnings are going to come out. We know Netflix has lost subscribers, but we know that they're going to be releasing their ad revenue platform. So these are all, you're kind of weighing the pros and cons of what's going to happen here, and we're waiting to see what happens. It's worth mentioning, if you look at NQ, you are still dangerously close to those previous lows. Very dangerously close, okay? So you need to be watching all this. You have a very big area you're sitting in right now. I think there's cause for concern, but you have to be patient. Broad scale of what's happening with the market, I'm still very bearish on a overall long-term chart. I don't believe you're out of the woodworks. You're obviously still in a downtrend. You could bounce here, but I don't think you're bullish by any means yet on a long-term scale. Shorter term, there is reason for upside if earnings come out good. I cannot stress that enough. If earnings come out good from basically Netflix, Tesla, or Snapchat, you could see lots of upside based on volatility, based on short starting to cover positions, take some profits, and prepare for that next type of upside move, okay? Be prepared for that, right? These are things that we've been watching for. Also with options, we've seen a lot less options flowing into the market. And now when they're flowing in, they're going deeper dated, no longer for October. And you're even seeing a slowdown in November. They're going for December and January, which tells me as well, you could see some upside moving happening in this next month, half month, if give or take. So that's what I'm going to be watching for, what I'm liking to see, basically how I'm playing the market. Now, going into tomorrow, things I'm watching for. If Netflix, and you're not going to get earnings until the end of the day, so you have to know that as well. So you're not going to be able to play Netflix or anything like that tomorrow. Okay, just know that. Don't get any smooth ideas or think, oh, well, Tyler, what's the play of Netflix? You're not going to get any kind of hints until earnings pop out. And basically, this is your range you're sitting in. This is your demand zone. You need to understand that, right? This is your supply, if you will. Sorry, that's where you're at right there, sitting up here. So you need to understand that. You're coming up to it. You're very close. You have about 100 points of upside. And I just don't like the risk reward here. I'm not going to long to this level, and I'm not going to short down here as well. If I'm looking for shorts, I'm going to grab around this area. But again, you're shorting into data, and we don't know what that's going to entail, and we don't know the outlook that they're going to do. So these are irrational times to be prepared. These are all the things I'm looking for here as well. Now, I'm going to go into a few of the things that I'm liking on the market and things that look decent. For instance, Tesla, we talked about this yesterday. I said $200 was basically your low, where you're looking to go. If you get below 200, you're probably targeting 184 or 186 down here. Now, you did not. You quickly reclaimed your previous 52-week lows and started pushing back up. Looking for Tesla, 226, key level to be tested there. If you start getting upside tomorrow, I'd be targeting Tesla towards 226. If you start getting downside, 216 is your clear target. Below 216, possibly come back down to 211, 212, right there. SPY, looking here. Look decent on the after hours. You're trying to push up. What I'd be looking for here specifically, I'm going to bring up this indicator really quick, the opens indicator, hide this one right here. I would be looking for a daily gap fill to the level of 372 on SPY. That's a daily level. That's where I believe the upside potential is too. If you start to claim these levels with good earnings, in my opinion, and based on me and Jay's opinion, we're targeting 379 to 380. Definitely a possibility if you have the good data. I want people to understand what I'm saying here. I do not expect blindly to go to those levels. This is all based on getting good numbers from these earnings. If you do not have good earnings, guess what? You will dump. If Netflix has bad earnings, the market will suffer. You need to understand that right now. Say it with me. If Netflix has bad earnings, you will tank. Okay. If it has great earnings, you will pump across the board. We've seen this happen before. Same with Tesla, same with Snapchat. Those are going to be very influential on the market. And these are the key areas and key things that I am watching. I cannot say this any more clearly. That is what I'm going to be looking for over the next basically 3 days. Watching earnings, trading based on them, and following the trend. Okay? So if we come out really bad after Netflix earnings, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be most likely another sit on the hand type of day because you're going to be coming into that key area. However, again, you need to understand, I would not be necessarily going short into these earnings either. Okay, I'm sitting on my hands waiting for the price action. Again, I'll update you on the trades if I have any, but be following on Twitter because, again, this is where I'm posting anything and everything because I don't make videos throughout the day. You have to wait till the end of the day for the videos. If you have any questions, please comment down below. I'll see you tomorrow.